Asia News.
On the 11th of December 1941, Japanese forces assault British defences in northern Malaya and head towards Penang. But instead of fighting the enemy, the British secretly leave the island, forcing the residents to defend themselves against the Japanese onslaught.
British just abandoned the island without any sense of responsibility.
The fall of Penang becomes one of Britain's greatest wartime humiliations. This is the story of Penang's darkest hour, as told by the people who survived it. December the 7th, 1941. Japan shocks the world with a devastating attack on the American naval base in Pearl Harbor. Almost simultaneously, the 5th and 18th Divisions of the Imperial Japanese Army slip unnoticed into the resource-rich nation of Malaya, some 3,000 miles away. By the evening of December the 8th, 27,000 Japanese troops, under the command of General Yamashita Tomoyuki, establish a foothold on the Malayan Peninsula and take the British air base at Kota Bharu. Using bicycles, tanks and boats, the 25th Army of the Imperial Japanese Army scrambles through southern Thailand into the western Saigon Peninsula.
There are already some intelligence reports. The British knew the Japanese were building up their military force in the north. There are so many telling signs. The British knew it would happen.
The British anticipate the Japanese invasion and brace themselves for a grueling campaign to protect their sovereignty in the Far East. Or so the propaganda leads people to believe.
Sunrise in Malaya, over the jungle in which some of the fiercest fighting of the war is taking place. Near the border of Thailand, a cyclist detachment is pedaling to the station. Reinforcements to stem the advance of the Japanese towards Singapore. The armies of the great powers are ranged across a battlefront over half the world. From Arctic snows to this suffocating heat, there is fighting in every kind of climate. This is the other extreme from the frozen desolation of Moscow and Leningrad. And this is one front where the battle goes anything but well for us. But a newsreel shows the news, good or ill, to a nation that can take it. Friend carriers are moving up in a long, long column, passing the famous black-domed mosque at Alor Star. And our cameras follow them up as they approach the borders of Thailand that used to be called Siam.
The reality on the ground, however, paints a starkly different picture. And within 2 days, the Japanese capture British bases in both Alor Setar and Kota Bharu. Penang is next. Conquering Penang would give Japanese and German forces complete domination of critical sea lanes in the South China Sea. But Penang is also a strategic stronghold for the British. It is both a naval base and communications centre with a wireless transmitter atop Penang Hill and marine cables from India. It is to be protected at all costs, and those costs are substantial. 1940 sees millions of pounds spent on defending Penang from future naval assaults. With commanding views across the Straits of Malacca and protected by 6 state-of-the-art naval guns, £40 million alone is lavished on the Batu Maung barracks. Penang is considered an impregnable fortress. But the British overlook something, an attack from above. And in December 1941, that's exactly what the Japanese do.
Lẽ ủi chỉ dễ sĩ, phải soạn cả siêu lạnh, xe xa léo, qua ghé lão tím bằng mẹ bị phá.
Anh, cả cao tiếng này rồi. Chú chỉ lăng xe, trái đó lăng xe biết túi này quay má chủ là vậy má đột lên nhìn lên nàoแล้วไปมีเสียได้เดียวฉัน
lại đó sẽ đến tận cái phương đi tận vậy tỏa sáng
quỳ xuống này đâu.
On the 11th of December 1941, the Imperial Japanese Air Force take everyone by surprise and make a beeline for Penang.
3點21隻半啲地丁，
hạ là hẹn tiêu chí hồi chi ở hồ sui thì thun cao trẻ
Đâu ALP thuộc khóa lắm cha bé say giá đâu bốc đâu bốc đâu
A lot of people came out to look at the sky and see, wow, so many planes flying over Penang. It's the first time in their life seeing so many planes.
一隻查甫搭波機比賽，老人少年都徛喺啲看啲飛船咯。
The first flyover is uneventful. Japanese pilots fly over Georgetown and disappear into the horizon. Relief surges through the city below.
A lot of people still didn't know actually this was actually the Japanese plane. Some they still thought it's a British plane.
nếu vậy chị là họ con chiều lúc lại có bị héo có còn ngon khoa
來呢，但啲醫務幫係幫我。
But the relief is short-lived. 5 minutes later, the Japanese planes return with a vengeance.
cháu làm cái đấy thành lý là cháu cháu ạ cũng là thì tình sợ tơ này đó
nếu con tụi họ bên ngay thì con nó bị thầu vi đéo rồi tụi biết thầu vi anh đấy đâu tụi biết thầu vi anh ấy vẫn cái khó khăn này khắc đéo bị
yang quay mà sampai di lau say ikian có khám mẹ lụ lại có làm gì thầu miệng tôi tình ca đó
醫務係幫我，一些佢哋呢嗌咧呢，佢有社會幫。
quay mà cái quay chuyện này cái đó thầu vi đỡ bị ở đấy em là bom nó bỏ xe rồi
bông cái gì đó qua chơi khoa lúc khi nãy tìm mấy ta tại một lại
could hear the vibration. The sound was something frightening, absolutely.
lúc kia cũng lúc kia con lăng chim bác sĩ hành chặt ít hồi này
ở đây mình cả mặt cả là phiang này bỏ ra tụi trẻ kia họ bên có bùm cái bên có phiang
The aerial bombardment is devastating, and civilians frantically flee for their lives.
暫時覺咁貴，後邊暫時其他其他唔掉啦。
有嘢冇嘅時候，佢只不過看到人咪食緊壽司咗咯，就冷死前日節去投資錢。
đâu có khoa chỉ sĩ kế phổ biến chun chỉ bên chun chỉ sĩ kế chỉ chun là đâu đi bom đều là đổ ấy mà.
The fall of Penang is underway. 5 days later, she would be completely occupied by Japanese imperial forces. On the 11th of December 1941, Penang is heavily assaulted by Japanese air raids, which kill hundreds of people.
145 these bomber planes flew over to Georgetown and dropped tons of bombs.
The surprise attack shocks the people of Penang. British forces are nowhere to be seen, giving Japanese fighter planes an unprecedented free path to destruction. Questions about British incompetence soon start to emerge.
People believe that the British were invincible. They will definitely be able to defeat the Japanese without much effort.
But days later, a disturbing secret comes to light. The British had already deserted Penang before the Japanese arrival.
The British just abandoned the island without any sense of responsibility.
Unable to defend Penang, the British, along with European residents, secretly withdraw under a white-only evacuation policy. Everyone else is left behind.
Malam, doanya wow, Obuti gula hingga pandai. Obuti tak abang dah kata Jepun nak mai. Obuti duk belah. Naik kapal, duk belah malam.
The ferries and all were going across, only headed for Europeans, no other races. No other races.
Aboy bom ko, amo kalau caw lah jo. Walang Pakistan, caw kalau walang Jai. Walang ki kuat kalau kami bulan, mikir kalau cile kalau kesi kalau itinggai kalau jo. Tidak caw lah.
Ada zaman betul, awalnya zaman port dia beda.
Although the evidence of a complete lapse in British security is overwhelming, the motherland's propaganda machine keeps marching forward.
More recently, RAF fighters have been able to bring down many of the raiders. This again is Ipoh, which suffered heavily from air raids. The scenes which we in Britain know so well are here repeated in eastern settings. But even here, there is a cheerful spirit to be seen in the signs of business as usual. Trenches have been dug by civilians in the public parks, as in Britain. But here, too, it is total war. This is a Red Cross ambulance whose Australian driver carried on during bombing and machine gun attacks. He drove across the aerodromes at Alor Star and Kota Baru to rescue men and women and children who stated that they, too, were machine gunned. These Indians were serving in a Punjab regiment when they were cut off at Alor Star. Friendly inhabitants gave them these clothes to assist their return through the Japanese lines. They rejoined their regiment after walking 200 miles in 7 days. And here comes another air raid. This raid gives proof at least of one Japanese who will not raid again. We have been told by the Prime Minister that though the news is bad, there is worse to come. Once more we must face days and nights of blood and toil and tears. But we may at least take comfort from the knowledge that what we have endured before, we can endure again. We can hang on, if we will, as long as all our enemies. And just that bit longer that turns defeat to victory.
Over the next 8 days, Penang is at the mercy of the Imperial Japanese Air Force as it continues to demolish the city even further. British defence forces are nowhere to be found. On the ground, fires start to spread, and Penang is under threat of complete annihilation.
There's fire everywhere, buildings were on fire, and debris everywhere, dead bodies were everywhere.
Kami diam-diam tak bom ni, bukan sudah.
Fire kept already for days. Nobody to put it out, no fire brigade, nothing.
Orang semua duk lari habis.
有人就揾講變咗病了，落地骨爛啊，冇人有代啊，看起啊，啲款啊，那關起好呀，那紅咗。
The whole town became like hell.
Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters target the island indiscriminately, blitzing anything that catches their eye.
And I remember there was also a description along the Penang road, there were the rickshaws.
加起你古車啊、超車，伊下了唔是下你咯。
伊講你這邊手車牌條是講幾萬錢啊？
你日本唔制小是 NBA club 嚟，你想幾萬錢啊？你日本人受死就是。
Even religious buildings do not escape their efforts.
揾啲我哋唔定，一隻人真係頭皮震下嘅，全日水情樣啊！由網路嚟到嘅草頂路嚟到跟住啲向攞冇貨冇 explosion。
我猜下一粒啊，定啲往隔壁位，往隔壁暗講暗，落去水底位未彈，但是落去冇人借買嘅了，用咗冇了。
cái lo lắm quỳ đi cái quỳ để chùm má cái chỗ cái lắm thì chụp mình cho nó không khác.
Description of the sulfur powder was scattered everywhere, that kind of thing. But sulfur, of course, is the main ingredient to make those bombs, and it's cheap.
Some ALP yo, yo cái hay chơi. Cái khuôn nhá, cái thỏ cái gì đó.
After days of intense bombing, a deathless silence falls over Penang.
Thì sao chỉ quan tất cả cái sinh kế, qua lấy được ta tàn này, bộ tháo bộ chiếu vậy.
Ở ông người ta做件仔企嘅，軍事看你試下嗰啲佢頭殼，而家做副幫頭啊咁樣，等你頭殼嗰陣做副幫頭係睇見嘅。
我諗嘢kalau open siang kau buat hui lah, le kona. Yang kau luntang kilo cepeng tu bom, ho tu bom so mo hẹn pun, iki isi ya.
Bây giờ đấy thì một triệu bom, bọn em chỉ biết bom, Habour đó bên, bây giờ đấy của gì đó.
But it's no doubt that the Japanese bombing of Penang was planned ahead. They knew what the areas to go after.
The bombing of Penang has even greater consequences beyond the immediate destruction of the city.
It was a total anarchy, and there's a looting and killing, and well, there's no law anymore. The police has disappeared, and there's no fire brigade, and nothing worked.
Lagi tinggi rumah tangga lagi tiada darat sana. Dulu balik pulau bayar lepas mau hutan nak.
Lúc trước chị lắm cái đó là lúc ta có chắc là ngủ bè kì giờ dùng lên dùng cái bóng chỉ bao lên ba cái đó lắm cháu vậy tạm này biến.
Chỉ少年家拢嗰個，佢哋咪點頭嘅，嗰度真可以買超佢。
Bị kỳ con lên bi cái mình chạy đi bằng kim người tháo, mẹ phụ nó làm tháo cái léo gì.
Nhà bi là nhà thường là nhà枪啦，晚餐裡面槍啦。
因為怕咗大把嗰幾幾齊，一看到個佬，跟佢翹到邊下邊啊，冇去睇人咧，翹啲國家嘅。
伊就阿三，到後尾咯，叫佢話接手死啊，第三日個死了啦。我過去講我就叫阿三死了名啊，紅了黃了，一頭殼個揸住件車啦。
With the absence of authority, And the air raids still continuing, the old paradise island of Penang descends into anarchy. But on the 16th of December 1941, one man selflessly places his life on the line to save Penang. December 1941, European and British subjects secretly evacuate Penang Island, leaving unarmed local civilians to face the wrath of the Japanese Air Force alone.
The British had left and there was only Penang people were facing a crisis because there were a lot of buildings already destroyed, people were homeless, there were dead bodies on the street.
Nobody informed the Japanese that Penang was an open city, the British had evacuated, and there was no government prevailing, nothing at all.
Japanese were still bombing Penang.
And people were worried that are they going to come in and kill more people or not?
With the aerial destruction pushing Penang closer to the brink of anarchy, a local news editor, Manika Soti Saravanamutu, steps forward to try and regain law and order in the island's main city, Georgetown.
People just call him Uncle Sarah. He came from Ceylon, where he came from a very good family with had a good education, played a lot of cricket, and he started working in Penang in 1930 as a sub-editor for Straits Echo.
Uncle Sarah knew my family very well. He was my father's friend. We are all from Sri Lanka. So knowing me, he could trust me. So he made me his personal bodyguard, and wherever he went, I went along with him.
Uncle Sarah organized the Penang Service Committee.
This ad hoc committee to sort of administer or to save the island. And they also were very instrumental in the surrender of the island to the Japanese.
The committee's first agenda is simple, but immediate.
Saravanamutu, I think we should take down the Union Jack.
No, I don't think so. No, why me? Shouldn't there be a chance that the Japanese will take down? No, this is everybody's volunteers, not me alone. No, I'm sorry.
There was discussion there amongst the members that the white flag should be raised and Union Jack brought down.
Worried committee members believe the British flag will be seen as a sign of defiance, a last man stand against the Japanese rulers. The reality is completely the opposite.
Japanese were actually not aware of the real situation at the time.
With the Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters continuing to demolish the city further, Uncle Sarah's task of hauling down the flag gets even more hazardous.
The committee, I think, all were with full agreement, nobody undertook to do it.
Very well. Would any one of you accompany me to the fort? Anybody?
So, Uncle Sarah undertook to do it. He took along with him his sub-editor, a chap called Ratnam, and myself. And we drove right in the morning, right to the esplanade, passing in a lot of dead bodies and stench and smoke, and it was an awful sight.
So Uncle Sarah had to make sure that the Union Jack, was taken down from Padang Kota or from Fort Cornwallis.
It was really, you never knew what was going to happen. It was dangerous. Bombing could take place any time, machine gun could take anything. But we took the risk. Nothing had to be done, we do it.
And they had to kind of like struggle with it because they thought that they would just pull it and it would easily come down.
And then Ratnam had to climb up the pole and undo the flag. The flag was fixed to the top of the pole, under the flag. And the white sheet was put in its place.
And Uncle Sarah said that, it was such an irony that we as British subjects have to take down the Union Jack.
Despite the lowering of the Union Jack, the Japanese continue to sporadically bomb the city. But Saravanamutu keeps pushing forward in his efforts to restore stability in Georgetown. He pulls together a makeshift police force to stop the looting.
I joined the E Company, so volunteers from E Company went there and guarded that place to prevent looting. We were stationed in Burma Road and Dwangin Road, all places just outside the bombing area, prevent further looting. A lot of looting was taking place. People were just carrying away all kinds of loot. So we could have different sections covering different parts of the town to control the looting. And it really did control the looting. People were a little scared after that.
Desperate to get hold of the Japanese, Saravanamutu heads to 50 Perak Road, home of Penang's now empty broadcasting station. His purpose? To convince the Japanese that the British have left.
This is Penang calling. Penang calling the Japanese headquarters in North Malaya. The British has left Penang. I repeat, the British has left. Please refrain from bombing Penang.
When the Japanese arrived, they were all billeted in the Chinese convent, Dr. Kramat Road. And Agasara spoke to the commander, the Japanese commander, peace, you come here in peace, please give us peace. Penang, we've gone through a very hard time, very bad time, so please see that your troops are under control and nothing molesting taking place or stealing taking place or whatever.
But Saravanamutu's good intentions are not welcomed by the Japanese army, and he is immediately imprisoned.
I think about 3 officers or so drive up to the doctor's house and ask Agasara to come out, and they took him away like that.
Well, he had to make a lot of sacrifice because when the Japanese landed, the first thing they did was, arrest him and say, you must be working for the British. But what is worse is that not only he suffered under the Japanese, but when the British came back, they thought that he was working for the Japanese, because there was a rumor that he was a governor appointed by the Japanese.
On the 19th of December 1941, with Saravanamutu's heroic efforts seemingly in vain, the Japanese occupation of Penang begins, along with a secret agenda that will later cost hundreds of lives. And, as the Japanese seize the entire island, the British General Headquarters in Singapore announced to the press that there is nothing to report. Eight days after dropping the first bombs on Georgetown, the Kobayashi Battalion of the Imperial Japanese 5th Division march into Penang unchallenged.
Japanese troops officially land on the Penang Island on the 19th of December at 4 p.m. and that starts the official occupation of the island by the Japanese.
Pressing orders are issued to confiscate radios, telephones and all vehicles. Penang is to be completely cut off from the outside world.
Very arrogant,
By imposing their authority through fear, the occupiers' immediate task is to contain the chaos and assert complete control over the people.
Japanese soldiers who formed the first wave of the invasion force, most of them are really diehards. You fail to show respect to them, they will just kick you, slap you, and really torture you.
我大概是个广州东啊，打起啊，其他就都国家 USM 啊，那一时日本人 sentry 徛掉。
Hoi hoi á, luôn sẽ có anh à bia, ít khoa lúc đâu chạy đâu giống, ít mùi á. Tôi sẽ
咱唔知咱袂晓嘛，大概是个国安的鬼啊，叫我啦，徛了牌子。
Sekarang ikin hak okey. Kalau lu dari mui lu bocor ane isangka ni topong lu lah. Lai này, thật ra lu. hẳn rồi mà tấn năng hắn nó chẳng tôi bố là sao tôi bị gì à bị
那个小时候那按讲，係講話，一冇法啦，我都有了，去了騎啲電車啊，騎了滴滴啦，呀，我前海 master，我在去 master 騎嚟嚟，所以我現在知道，係大佬幫我。
As the weeks pass, Japanese wartime arrogance turns into something far more sinister.
Allora Japan udah Jepang ada berontak. Anda tahu kalau ni mansal ni beti pote di konde di, ilai konde.
日本不就我觉得他话不是等人，介紹佢，介紹你係個 girlfriend 去學日本嚟睇佢做乜？
Dia tak nak pakai bangsa apa dah dalam dunia ni. Hanya aku raja, aku semua. Dia imagine dia myself. Masuk macam ni dia nampak budak perempuan. Tarik.
係你咩？一坐你找波去，想做派找波，一兵啊！日本兵唔是一人啊，來到10、20人啊，安尼講有得，安understood啊。
Macam tu ni bapa hang tu laki hang tu. Orang tengok kelik-kelik ni. Orang ajak. Cakap tak kenal. Dia tarik apa dia nak buat dia tunjuk. Dia cakap ciji. Cik nak koyo, orang kata cinta bosan, cinta kau. Này là, cái bên đi trả bó này thì còn cần trả bó đấy.
Chứ ta bay ảo đi xì.
Prisoners and civilians are despised, and Japanese soldiers ignore international conventions that protect them against ill treatment.
Bunyi Jepun tu masuk, lari di belakang ni, buka pintu belakang. Sono hutan, siapa nak pergi belakang ni mau hutan. Duduk ketak, ulang kah? Apa metelan kah? Lagi baik ulang telan daripada Jepun nak telan. Pusat gaun போட்டு வேணா அது வில்லுவட்டில் உள்ளது அதை வெட்டி கொடுத்தாலே குடுன்றான்.
4 months after the initial Japanese occupation, Japan's most feared unit, the ruthless Kempei Tai, arrive in Penang. They have made their way up from Singapore on the back of a murderous cleansing campaign known as Soup Ching. Their victims? The Chinese.
Because at the time, there's still a lot of Chinese did not want to, to obey the Japanese in order to have the Japanese running this place smoothly. These people must be carried off.
你負責歐美征戰時，歐美日本會嗰陣時，將政府咧即係反對日本會唔准人嚟日本會啊。
Because the local Chinese was before the war already launched so many boycotting campaigns or fundraising to save the China. Yeah. So this is how the Japanese think that they have to do something to get rid of all these strong supporters of the anti-Japanese people. 啲小啲日本，你即係日本會日本嚟鬧啦，又係多啊得個啊，呢個真係合聲啦，同你打斜啲，南邊啲日本會，呢對呢啲日本會咯。
As the Kempei Tai's reputation for violence starts to spread, citizens fear any contact with the Japanese.
因為呀，在合聲啊，會讀中文啊。 會讀平話，早我就讀平話啦，會讀中話啦。
哦，中華邊條幾個人做咧？查甫邊條，查甫邊條，啊！你準備反對這日本人，仲嚟乜路？
到這會掠去關水咯，關喺爸爸咯，落咯，困落去落嚟拗咯。
啊！會人來咧，人哋我直條掠去。 在附近冇咧排屍咧，
一會是掠皮小行，掠皮啊！下等你做咧看哦，阿人嚟去補做咯，差唔多聽我老家講會掠去啊，掠去雲頭，燒去頭。
Under pressure from the Kempe Thai, many victims turned to betrayal in a trade-off for their life.
Kempe Thai carry out this through the collaborators. A lot of collaborators, actually those are the people who serve as the spies for the Japanese, including some Taiwanese who were staying in Penang.
Bởi vì Jepun này đó là lihat mana cile kampung ni satiang ka sitiang ka irori lại lihat đi.
Em có đặc biệt có một trong出來為住其實話喺佔冷咯，因很近因有這裡有爆掉啊，很近是叫做 spy 啊，誒叫很近有爆掉啦，然後你個招咯，我哋唔計嗰啲接住冷咯，佢制咗咪排咯，所以係燃咯，燃呢啲地方偏頭，即係冷就拖出嚟，日本人嚟咯，會呢一啲會bằng咯。
The spies for the Japanese, including some Taiwanese who were staying in Penang. That time, Penang, I think, was divided in seven districts, and these districts will carry out the vetting by these hooded collaborators for them to verify whether you are anti-Japanese.
Local residents become ever more desperate to escape being labelled as anti-Japanese activist.
我爸伊唔知是點抓是零嘅喲，我話伊係acid 啊，係蝦米我去內手就俾回去，一件日本人掠。
If you were caught, the punishment was swift and ruthless.
Selera semua kena potong pula, including our cousin also. One of our cousins. Hidup tau dia ikat kaki, dia ikat tangan belakang. Dia so squat. Dia minum, bagus. Main dekat tangan. Dia santai. Dia terajang masuk lubang.
Lục Jepang, nó có xí nó chẹt cái lâu thì khoan, thôi giờ là nhìn ra bộ ta lục chạy à được, chắc kỹ hồi nè, từng chạy mi, thì khoan gọi là má lặng xí à.
Penang's suffering under Japanese rule was to last more than 3.5 years, until one day in August, when a bomb over Hiroshima changed the course of history. The Japanese Suk Ching campaign, a brutal anti-Chinese cleansing offensive that started on February the 18th, 1942 in Singapore, finally arrives in Penang. 250 students from Chungling High School are massacred, and thousands more tortured at the hands of the Kempe Thai. Hundreds of remaining locals are forced into labour camps, and food shortages become a growing problem.
Với qua các kỳ đi kiểu ăn đi chua cam này, khi qua Đài Loan, do trong Đài Loan quân thảo treo này, đi chua quân thảo là.
Ý rằng dù con, ý rằng office với xì trả bó, dù cứ nói con, bên cái đó lấy bài luôn đi sửa bạ, lúc lắng bị say, ra xí chua cam. Dia paling juga.
Asyik ikut komandan. Ada tu marah di kalangan itu tu orang muda, untuk dia kara bercara bagi kacian ada tak. Asyik kerja dia lah, asyik ikut komandan. Marah di kalangan tu wira kau tu pun ada.
Tanbi, election ya, cik tahu. Tanbi, tanami, dia kan koma. Lần bị chặn ngắn hoa chỉ quay chỉ để họ chỉ can làm gì nè chỉ can bộ câu chuyện rồi
bộ gai không người ta mà câu bị cái yếu đâu bị cái yếu sai dọn không bị chỗ bị cái yếu không má có nó càng không phải tiệt trơn vì ở chỗ đó là không bị cái yếu.
The Japanese are quick to impose their language and customs on the island. Everything from signboards to books to calendars is changed to Japanese, and propaganda materials circulate Penang.
我去我在韩国去접시去我去日本那屋啦，然后看咁嘅都屋啦，我本未記啦，我寫katakana啦，咁日本嘅字啊。
Lagu apa yang dengar? Dia akan dengar lagu apa? Lu dengar lagu dia. Permukaan dia ya. Lepas tu dengar apa sekarang itu? O tete sunai de,
o tete sunai de, nomi jin zhi yu ge ba,
nomi ji yu ge ba, minna kawaii. Lagi apa dia tu?
Dia betul cokek lah. Betul cokek. Mio to kai no,
mio to kai no, so ke te. Yo, ku tu papa ku karya ke ba.
Kyo kaji ku kakaku kakaya ke ba. Yo kat pun gua biki lah.
August the 6th. As the Japanese occupiers go about their daily business, reports of a blinding flash and violent blast in Hiroshima hit the world's media. Japan has been bombed. 3 days later, a second atomic bomb destroys Nagasaki. Fearing a complete destruction of his country, Emperor Hirohito surrenders on the 21st of August 1945, and Japan's war comes to a bloody and devastating end. The surrender is announced in Singapore by Lieutenant General Tezio Ishiguro. Penang, along with the rest of Malaya, is finally free.
日本仔走行又唔制，細細講日本仔走又唔制，冇人要我行。
The Japanese occupation of Penang was over as swiftly as it started, and all that was left for its people was to pick up the pieces.
想起來真係慘，
我驚。你對我特別私人我講冇驚。
攰啦，佢冇阿咪感覺啦，就係平常嘅物件啦，做事係咁樣啦。
我諗到朝早，堂口門過嚟了，大家見那些，咱未想到咧談到安尼好嘅機會，那就 God bless me， 天保護咱。
就講咱關呢，一直盡量養啦，都冇拆嘅，一直保護啦。你係殘忍俾睇冇正當，你叻咗就是，他只是有保險。
The Japanese occupation, it can never be a good thing, despite some say that it brought about the nationhood. But this war, there's no winner. Everybody lose. Even the Japanese, they became the biggest victim themselves, with more than 3 million Japanese men killed during the whole period of the war, and it will take them many years to recover.
Well, the Japanese people, I think the whole attitude has changed. Young generation completely have a different outlook.
那當然會介日本嚟好啊，就是慢慢意思啦嗰啲。
激氣啦，激氣！我講安怎啦？我起哄我講有人會買隻日本嘅物件，咁咯，我冇買，就我人食沙狗夾，要入嘢嚟做。
嗱，咁你唔係搞掂，那都翻嚟就得了。
After 9 months in prison, the Japanese released Manikasoti Saravanamutu and offered him a position as Ceylon's governor. Saravanamutu politely rejected the offer. When the war was over, he did, however, serve as Ceylon's commissioner to the Malays and the British, before eventually becoming minister plenipotentiary and envoy extraordinary to Indonesia, and honorary consul general in Bangkok. He died on the 12th of November 1970 in Penang, at the age of 75. 67 years after the Japanese bombardments, Georgetown officially became listed as a World Heritage Site. Nicknamed the Silicon Island, Penang has become Malaysia's top manufacturing investment centre, with its highly industrialised high-tech electronics plants. Known as the food capital of Malaysia, Penang, now a bustling city with over 1.5 million people, serves as one of the top tourist destinations in Malaysia.
trong Malaysia con thấy nhá, thấy Nhật Bản chính chế là béo con à.
No doubt, they were cruel when they had their regime out here. But one has, over the years, peace has to come. And I think we had peace with the Japanese now.
Even as the city moves forward in the 21st century, the people of Penang strive to preserve Penang's heritage and history. Ultimately, 1941 will forever be remembered as the year Penang fell to the Japanese.